Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. Fourth and School. A little late this week, but I'm going to pick things up today. I missed out on a lot this weekend. Um, but yeah, today I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a rundown from what I saw in the NFL this week. Look ahead to a little bit of this week's upcoming games. Not a whole lot, though. I'll do that. And then instead of power rankings, I'm going to go ahead and actually rank all 32 starting quarterbacks through 4 weeks. It was the quarter mark of the season after week 4, so we'll kind of see where teams are standing. And then I will also talk about whatever else comes to my head. So we'll see how this goes. But write me out. Let's go ahead and step into game from this weekend. I'll give you a precursor. If I'm being honest, I didn't watch any college football Saturday night. Instead, I decided to get blackout drunk. Missed probably the best college football game of the season up to this point. But hey, I poured out some Henny for the boys. It was nice. Had a good time. I don't know. It was nice. It was a good weekend. But yeah, so I missed all college football, but I watched a few games. Yeah, so I'll keep it easy. I watched the Colts and Texans game. People are saying, well, Andrew Luck led a good comeback. I don't know if that's necessarily the case. I think Houston kind of backed off in the second half, played really relaxed. Luck still had no arm. Second half, played really relaxed. Luck still had no arm. He left a lot of balls kind of floating. When T.Y. Hilton was out of the game, the offense was anemic. It was really hard to watch. But on the other side, Houston looked really good for 3.5 quarters. Deshaun Watson, his old self. Jadeveon Clowney had a breakout game, and if it wasn't for Khalil Mack, he'd probably have my vote for the Defensive Player of the Year. Just kind of looking at Houston, they're only 1-3, but they have a legitimate chance to be a top 10 team in the league, which is beat anybody. But they just look so dominant at times. But then they fall flat. So if they can kind of stay consistent with getting a good pass rush and if they can keep J.J. Watt and Jadeveon Clowney healthy, I mean, that duo is going to be scary for everybody in the league. I look forward to watching them the rest of the season. I do have a lot riding on them. I kind of put my money on him early in the season, kind of said he was going to be the number 1 receiver in the NFL this year. And that hasn't been terribly wrong, but he kind of hasn't. He had a good breakout game this week, but other than that, he's kind of been held in check. So I want to see how that does, or how he does the rest of the season. And then Sunday I also watched a little bit of the Saints-Giants game, but that game was just honestly too boring to stay and watch with Baker Mayfield over on the other channel. So I kind of flipped away from that. It was a really low-scoring first half, which isn't what I expected. And I know the Saints pulled away in the second half. They ended up winning by 15, but it was a boring game. They didn't really do anything. It worries me with that offense is they have so many weapons, and they remind me of Minnesota in the sense that you have, your defense is good, your offense has star power, but they haven't both been clicking yet this season. So on a Sunday, the Saints offense was off to a slow start, but the defense looked good. But the other 3 games this season, the offense has looked good, but the defense has been legitimately awful, and they're giving up a bunch of points. Kind of figure out how to get both the offense and the defense on the same page. Kind of, if they can get that together, then they're going to be one of the best teams in the league. But right now, it's a little concerning. It's kind of the same with the Giants. The Giants have gone, I think, 36 straight games now without scoring 30-plus points. And in the new age of the NFL where teams are just – you have to assume that this is Eli Manning's fault. He's been terrible all year. He looks scared in the pocket. He's afraid to take any sort of hit, which I get. I mean, he's old, and you don't want to – I mean, you want to preserve your body as much as you can. You want to take as few of hits as possible, but damn, he just doesn't stay in the pocket. But, yeah, I guess so. After watching that game for a little bit, I flipped it over and watched Baker Mayfield and the Browns. That game was straight bullshit. I'll be dead honest because the Browns won that game. they called that strip sack on Derek Carr, and they ended up ruling it as forward progress was stopped when he wasn't even touched yet. As soon as he was hit by the defender, the ball popped out. That kind of emphasizes that quarterbacks are being overly protected. So I can only imagine what Peyton Manning and Brett Favre would have been called with on that. It changed momentum. It let the Raiders have a chance to come down and score, because if you watch the whole play, you see the ball's knocked out, and the Browns defensive tackle picks up the ball, and he has a wide open touchdown, but they rule the play dead. And the Raiders go down, score, and the Raiders go down, score, get the ball again later in the game, force overtime, then win it in overtime, 45-42. And it's just something you hate to see with, the officiating kind of taking over games now. Sunday night, I don't even know who played. Steelers game. It was pitiful. Quarterback play was abysmal. I couldn't stand it. I think I ended up turning the game off in like the third quarter. I want to see Lamar Jackson play at this point. When he's on the field, the defense definitely takes notice, and they kind of it opens up the run game for Alex Collins and Javorius Allen. I like to see that. I mean, even if he's not doing anything himself, he's still taking over the mindset of the defense, making them appreciate what he can do with the ball, and therefore the whole offense opens up. And then Joe Flacco will come out and throw a lame bad passes, but he also threw a couple nice balls that John Brown was able to do something with. So he's not going to lose his job, especially as the team's like 3-1 right now. But I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of Flacco, as we'll see in a little bit. But Big Ben looked bad again. James Conner, it's finally bad again. James Conner, it's finally starting to show that they need Le'Veon Bell in that offense. It's dumb as hell to think that James Conner can produce the same. Yeah, he's getting 80 catches, but they're manufactured touches and they're dump offs and checkdowns. It's not like Le'Veon Bell lining up in the slot and beating. It's not like Le'Veon Bell lining up in the slot and beating a safety and catching a slant pass for 15, 20 yards. It's Connor's catching the ball, and occasionally he'll break a tackle, but he's not catching the ball, making guys miss, powering through tackles. It's like Kyle Rudolph in a sense, where you catch the ball, you go down. Where you take what you're given, you take advantage of what the defense gives you, and that's it. Which is fine. And then I'm not trying to shit on James Conner. I think he's a good player, and I also, he has a cool story about beating cancer as a college athlete, coming back and playing his senior year at Pitt. But nevertheless, I don't think player is Le'Veon Bell. So that was really starting to get annoying. And then Monday night, the Chiefs played Denver. I watched the second half of that game. I was out playing soccer during the first half. So rest in peace to my body. All legends seem to die young at this point. Pat Mahomes, I mean, there's nothing else to say. The dude is just so good. His arm talent is through the roof. I thought Matt Stafford had the best arm talent I've ever seen in terms of like angles, and you can put velocity on the ball no matter what. But now I think that Mahomes has taken that over, and Mahomes isn't even in the prime of his career yet. Give him a few more years, and things are going to be explosive for that offense. And give credit to Andy Reid for tailoring it to Mahomes' his fits and his scheme and his all that kind of stuff, because he's running a college style offense, and he's able to just kind of chuck it whenever he wants. He has got plenty of weapons. He's got a good run game to support him. His defense blows, but doesn't matter at this point. They're 4-0. Case Keenum on the other side of that game, he had a chance really to win the game. He overthrew a wide open Demaryius Thomas, which I thought was impossible, but he proved me wrong. And he hasn't shown me anything in Denver that shows that he's a good quarterback about the scheme, and he's very lucky to be in the situation he's in. He's got a lot of pieces around him, and that's how he was in Minnesota, but he's just not getting the job done. And he's showing that he can't carry a team, which is what you want when you pay a guy that much money. But with that, I'll rank all 32 starting quarterbacks. Starting 32, I really wanted to go Blake Bortles here. But since C.J. Beathard is coming off or is replacing an injured Jimmy Garoppolo, I'll put him there just because, I don't know what he can do. I know he looked good for Kyle Shanahan, but he also threw a pick late. Granted, it wasn't his fault, but I'll put him last. So 31, I've got Blake Bortles because holy cow, he looked really good one game and everybody lost their shit saying he was an elite quarterback again. And then he decides he's going to turn around and put up 6 points again. And then I didn't even watch him against the Jets because I didn't care about that game whatsoever. It was probably a boring game. So I'm not going to sit here and act like I know what happened, but I assume it wasn't all Blake Bortles carrying that team to 31 points. 30, I've got Eli Manning. He's hard to watch. He's afraid to take deep shots, it looks like. He's got so many weapons around him, and he's just not getting the job done. He's going to have to pick it up if he's going to have a real chance of... he's not going to be the quarterback after this year, I assume. I really want them to go get Justin Herbert in the draft. They're projected to be a top 5 pick again this year, so hopefully that works out, but we'll see. 29, I've got Case Keenum. A lot of late game miscues. He worries me in a sense of he's not going to live up to the money that he's making, but he's not even a game manager because it's not like he's moving the ball down the field at pace. He takes the snap and throws it to the flat, and it's boring as hell to watch. But he gets credit because the tight end will catch the ball and run it 11 yards, and it's an 11-yard completion for Keenum. But in reality, he threw the ball about a half a yard behind the line of scrimmage. And it's just very Sam Bradford-like, which is cool, I guess. 28, Sam Darnold. I have him the lowest. I think he has a lot of promise, but he has his fair share of struggles. Damn, it's hard to say. I don't know. I'm not super high on him still. 27, Jameis Winston. He's replacing Fitzpatrick, who looked terrible over the last 2 weeks. But Winston threw a pick. He's definitely not living up to his number 1 pick status. I wouldn't be surprised if this is his last year in Tampa Bay, along with Dirk Cutter. 26, Alex Smith. He's still the same old Charlie checkdown that he's always been. Boring as hell to watch. 25, Josh Allen. He struggled to put up points except for the game against Minnesota, coincidentally, but you can see the arm talent is there, the athleticism's there. His ceiling is rising, I think, and I'm still pretty high on him, which I came full circle on him in the last year and a half. But I think he's definitely the franchise guy for Buffalo. They just need to spend some money, get some resources for him. 24, Joe Flacco. A lot of missed throws. Doesn't intimidate defenses at all with his. He's not intimidate defenses at all with his. He's not going to move out of the pocket very much. He's going to throw a lot of bad passes, and he's got Lamar Jackson breathing down his neck. 23, Baker Mayfield. I love what Baker brings. He's very confident. He carried the Browns to 42 points in Oakland, which I don't know why. But he's fun to watch. He throws some good balls. He threw a beautiful touchdown to Jarvis Landry. He can extend plays with his legs if he has to. I think the Browns finally do have a franchise quarterback. 22, Dak Prescott. Not a great thrower of the football. Which is not great if you're a quarterback. That's just my opinion. I don't know about you, but I think he'd probably throw the football a little bit to be a quarterback. But he did throw a nice ball to Zeke down the sideline to basically win them the game. So that's why I'm going to put him up a little bit. If he doesn't complete that pass, he's probably in the bottom 5. 22, Josh Rosen. I know he lost, but damn, he looked good as hell. He threw a couple of really nice passes. He threw one. It was a little corner route to his tight end with no angle at all, and they put the ball right behind the linebackers. So the linebacker's kind of trailing the tight end. He puts the ball right behind his arm, and it fits right into the hands of his tight end. I think it was Ricky Seals-Jones. He has a bad offensive line, no run game really because of that offensive line. He doesn't have a lot of weapons, but he made some move forward. He was my number one quarterback coming into the season. 20, I've got Ben Roethlisberger, or 21. Damn, I miscounted somewhere. Oh, no. I don't know. Whatever. 20, Ben Roethlisberger. Antonio Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster are kind of making him look better, but this is the worst catchable pass percentage that Antonio Brown's ever had in his career by a long shot. Big Ben's just kind of missing his throws a little bit more and more. I don't know how much of that has to do with his his age and his athleticism catching up to him, but we'll see. I'm not a big fan of his to begin with. 19, we're going to go Ryan Tannehill. He's looked decent so far this season, but then they got shellacked against New England over this past weekend. He's another guy I think is I think the Dolphins could be in the running for a quarterback next year or in this upcoming draft. 18, Carson Wentz. I know that seems low, but he hasn't really impressed me very much this season. They just lost an overtime game to the Titans, and I think it's not that Wentz is necessarily bad, but it's not that Wentz is necessarily bad, but there's just so many other quarterbacks playing well, and he's still coming off that injury. Next up, Matt Ryan. Ryan, he is what he is. I'm not super high on him. He's got a lot of weapons around him again. He's got 2 good running backs. He's got 3 really good receivers, and he's got a couple pretty solid tight ends. So I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of his. But he could prove me wrong. 16, I've got Andrew Luck. Again, he's looked okay. 16, I've got Andrew Luck. Again, he's looked okay. Arm talent is not what it used to be. He lacks any sort of zip on his passes. But he also doesn't have any weapons or an offensive line. But I don't know. He's a number 1 pick. I want him to kind of live up to his expectations. Next up, I've got Mitch Trubisky. His first 2 games were terrible. He was in the verge of being, I still view him as a bust at this point just because he hasn't done a whole lot with his arm. He lacks the big time throw, but he looked good against Tampa Bay, but Tampa Bay's got a terrible secondary. It's a whole mess, but given the hype on him right now, I'll put him in my top 15. 14, Andy Dalton, the Red Rifle. He looks pretty good the last couple of games. He was on the hot seat, I think, of losing his job. But I think he's played well enough, at least to this point, to hang on to it next season. Andy Dalton. I just did Andy Dalton. My bad, I can't read. I'm out of it. Next, Mariota. Mariota hasn't played a whole lot with his nerve issue in his hand, but I don't know. I think he led a good clutch touchdown drive. He had 3 4th-down conversions in that overtime win over the clutch touchdown drive. He had 3 4th-down conversions in that overtime win over the Eagles. He can make plays with his legs. And I think there's some people have been talking that he should lose his job because he's kind of regressed. I completely disagree. I think he's been a solid quarterback in that offense. And I think he makes that offense what it is, and they're 3-1, so I'm not going to question it. Number 12, Russell Wilson. I mean, he's a good quarterback. He can make plays. His offensive line's bad. His defense is bad. Plus, they just lost Earl Thomas. A little overrated still. A lot of people put him in the top 3 to 5 quarterbacks. I wouldn't go that far, but I do think he's right there as being a top 10 guy. And then number 11, Derek Carr. Derek Carr's put up a lot of yards, a lot of good numbers, but at the same time, he hasn't won games. I know he doesn't have a defense to rely on, but with John Gruden there, you would think he'd be a lot better than what he's been. But I don't know. I think the ceiling is still high, and the traits are still there. He's a good quarterback. He's going to find ways to win. He's going to put balls on the money, but we'll see. He's there by no means is he in fear of losing his job or anything. He's number 11. That's not even bad. That's in the top third of the league, which is better than what I anticipated him to be. So for right now, he's in a pretty good spot. And now we're cracking into the top 10. I just ate some lunch, so if there's a little awkward delay in the thing, then whatever, deal with it. Number 10, I've got Matt Stafford. I know the first couple games of the season were a bit of a struggle for him, but realistically, he's still throwing the ball really well. He's slinging the ball over the field. He's got 3 receivers now that each have like 50 yards at least in each of the first 4 games. It's not unheard of. He's spreading the ball well. His coaching staff is, I don't know, back than both of the other guys on the roster. And he's not getting the ball, so it's all on Stafford to kind of make plays himself. And his defense blew this last game against Dallas after the late comeback. It's unfortunate for him, but I think he's still one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Number 9, I've got Deshaun Watson. They're only 1-3, but he's looked so good the last few weeks. He's throwing the ball really well. He's able to escape the pocket. He looks a lot more comfortable than he did earlier in the season, coming off of that ACL injury. So I'm just gonna go with upside projector here, and I'm gonna have him top 10. Number 8, Drew Brees. That might seem low, but he hasn't impressed me a whole lot this season. That's not to say he hasn't been good, but he just hasn't been, in that same tier as some of the other guys that are up on this list. 7, Aaron Rodgers. He hasn't dominated anybody, but he's also been hurt. Can't really judge him, but I'm not going to put him top 5 without knowing how healthy he is. I'm not going to put him outside the top 10 for the same reason. Number 6, Kirk Cousins. Kings defense has been terrible. They've had no run game, but they've been in their games except for the Buffalo one. But he dueled head to head against a tough Sean McVay offense in LA on a Thursday night. He's 3rd in the league in passing yards. He's on pace to break the single season passing record. So yeah, I'll put him in there. That is. He struggled a little bit with turnovers this year, but I'm not going to doubt him. He's Tom Brady. He's going to get the job done. Number 4, Cam Newton. They've only played 3 games. They've already had their bye week, but he's looked very impressive, not just as a passer, but as a rusher. The offense is a little bit opened up because of his ability. It's not because of North Turner, but it opens run game for Christian McCaffrey. And I think Newton's looked pretty solid so far. Obviously, it's been a small sample size, but we'll see what happens. Jared Goff, number 3. People are arguing that he's a system guy. After seeing some of the throws he's making, he's not a system guy. He is putting beautiful ball placement. He's hitting open receivers when he needs to, but, that's his job. And, yeah, his receivers get open, but he still has to make that throw. He's utilizing all of his Robert Woods is involved. Gerald Everett's sometimes involved. Cooper Kupp's making big plays. There's a lot to like in that offense, and, Jared Goff has looked very promising so far. And number 2, this might be a shocker, but I'm going to go Phillip Rivers. He has 11 touchdown passes. Shocker, but I'm going to go Phillip Rivers. He has 11 touchdown passes and only 2 interceptions so far this season. He's looked really, really good for the Chargers offense. He's got a lot of weapons around him, but nonetheless, he's out here. He's old as hell, and he came into the league with Ben Roethlisberger, and he's the only one that's still dominating at a high level. And I don't know what to say. He's just looked so impressive so far, even with his weird arm motion. But the Chargers have a really good offense in place with him there. I was thinking that they needed to draft a quarterback for the future, which they probably still do. He's not going to last forever, but he looks pretty good. there's no reason to panic or anything. I mean, he's my second-rated quarterback in the league. So props to him for balling out. The yards, but it's because he doesn't need them. The team puts the game away early, and they can coast. He's the clear MVP favorite through the quarter mark of the season. He's a baller right meow, and we'll see what happens. The Chiefs, I mean, they're my Super Bowl favorite at this point. The Chiefs, I mean, they're my Super Bowl favorite at this point, which sucks because I didn't have them very high in my preseason rankings, but damn, if I'm doing some self-scouting, I was definitely wrong on them. Mahomes was my number one quarterback 2 years ago when he came out, but, I didn't think he would have this kind of impact immediately. I knew he would hit this point at some point in his career, but this is insane to have him already as the best quarterback in the league after 5 career starts. I think he's already broke the Chiefs record for wins at Mile High Stadium, and he's played 5 NFL games, and he's played twice in Denver already, and he's won both of his games. It's impressive as hell. So shout out to him. I don't really have anything else to cover today. I've kind of been focused all week on this chemistry test I'm going to fail on Friday. It'll be good. But hey, keep tuning in. And there's a lot of really good content and stuff. And drink water, obviously. And shouts out to somebody cool. All right. Good talk.